What is going on, Panthers Nation? Carolina Dad here, ready to dive in. Let's get it going, folks. Today, we're going to take a look at the offense heading into free agency. What is the state of the Panthers roster right now? Well, I think it's good to know to start talking about draft and talking about potential free agents. Let's get right in, folks. All right, so we're going to go through the offense. I'm going to have an additional video that goes through the defense and another video for special teams. Special teams is going to be easy, folks. No doubt about that. But let's go ahead and jump right in. Few things to talk about. So when we start going through and looking at some of the free agents, it's important to understand the difference in exclusive rights free agents, restricted free agents, and then unrestricted free agents. And that all plays into what these players can do. Exclusive rights free agent is any player with fewer than 3 accrued seasons and an expired contract. If his original team offers him a 1-year contract at the league minimum based on his credited seasons, the player cannot negotiate with other teams. This type of free agency typically comes into effect when a player is released from their rookie contract and is re-signed either by their original team, a new team, or by going on to the practice squad. So that's the context there. A restricted free agent is a player with 3 accrued seasons and an expired contract. RFAs are free to negotiate and sign with any team, but their original team can offer them one of a various qualifying offers that come with the right of first refusal and or draft compensation. If the tender is withdrawn by a team, the RFA becomes an unrestricted free agent. Last on the list, most people know this, unrestricted free agents. Any player with 4 or more accrued seasons and an expired contract. So they are free to negotiate with anyone unless they get the franchise tag. So here we go. Let's jump right in, folks. Like I said, we're going to go through the offense today. We're going to look at all the positions. We're going to look at stats, at least to the extent that we can. So let's do it. Hey, quarterbacks, no mysteries here, right? We know we got Bryce Young coming back as well as Andy Dalton. And when we talk about this upcoming season, I think that'll be the case. Although I did look at Tampa Bay's roster from this past year. They carried 3 quarterbacks. I mean, I know Baker was the starter, but we are likely going to see as we get into training camp or really the summer and the program that comes along with that, a backup or 2 that's going to be added. And those are really just bodies to help, go through practices, go through some of the preseason games, all those things that we saw last year with some of the quarterback rotation that we had here. Let's take a look at their stats. So, Bryce Young, leading quarterback, and I've gone through his stats in much more detail than what we have on the screen here. Let's take a look. Played in 16 games last year. Andy Dalton, we know, started the Seahawk game. That was really the only game that Bryce missed. 315 completions, 59.8% completion percentage, 2,877 passing yards, 5.5 yards per attempt, about 179 yards per game, 11 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. Longest throw was 48 yards, sacked 62 times, and a passer rating of 73.7. I'm not going to read Andy's stats. You can see them there. Andy's not taking the job. Now, I know we can all go back in hindsight and say, like, man, I really wish Andy had, we had the Green Bay model. And Bryce sat for a little bit, and Andy showed him the ropes that way, but it didn't happen. I had someone say, like, hey, is Andy going to start? I'm like, no, dude. Those days are long gone. So if you're holding out hope that maybe, just maybe, that's going to happen, I hate to say that it's not. It's just not going to happen. We'll look at Bryce's rushing stats here, but it's important as we start talking about this offense here in a second. We've got to get some guys in here to help Bryce, and that starts on the offensive line, tight end, and absolutely receivers, potentially even a running back. Speaking of running backs, Chuba Hubbard and Miles Sanders are your 2 running backs under contract. And I should say, what you didn't see is we don't have any free agents or guys that were signed from the practice squad that are quarterbacks. You'll start to see that as we get through these. Chuba Hubbard, running back 1, Miles Sanders, big contract. I don't think there's any way in the world that he is not here next year. It just, unfortunately, and hopefully, fortunately, he figures it out. But unfortunately, right now for us, he's just too much money and too much dead cap to cut ties. So I think he's here for at least one more year, and maybe next year you look to move on from him. We did sign 3 guys to reserve and future contracts. Now, all 3 of these guys were practice squad guys. So Tariq Cohen, who you may or may not have known was on our team, guy North Carolina A&T, had a big start in his career with the Chicago Bears, specialist, running back. We know about the ACL injury. He was battling back, just didn't make it back. I know Chris Tabor was very high on him. Mike Boone and Spencer Brown. Now, Spencer Brown did see a little bit of time over the past year or 2 season, over the last 2 seasons, I should say, but I don't think right now as it stands that he'll be competing, which leads just to Raheem Blackshear. Raheem Blackshear, who has seen some playing time, who has been a return specialist on kickoff return, is now a free agent. And with the state of just the entire roster, I don't know how much this front office is going to prioritize the guys that we have here versus bringing in new guys and let's just start fresh, because you can't really get much worse than where things were. Taking a look at the stats. Chuba Hubbard, leading rusher, 902 rushing yards, 3.8 yards per carry, 5 touchdowns. I mean, the rushing attack wasn't great at all last year across the board. Miles Sanders, 432 yards. Bryce Young, 253. And we had, 7 rushing touchdowns. The other one was Amir Smith-Marset. So there you go. On this list, and we're going to get into receivers, but you do have Laviska Shenault, who I think is going to be gone. But that's your mix. And now I know I saw somewhere Austin Eckler's name being thrown around as, potentially coming here. I don't know that I'm buying that. I don't know that the front office is going to buy spending that money on running backs when we're already spending as much as we are on Miles Sanders. But I do think there's going to be a third running back in the mix. I don't know if that's through the draft, free agency, or we decide to bring back Raheem. Wide receivers. I posted this and the reactions that I got from y'all on X, man. So wide receivers, we have Adam Thielen, Jonathan Mingo, Mike Strachan, and Terrace Marshall Jr. Now, out of this group, there's a chance that Adam Thielen could be gone. There's a chance, very high chance in my opinion, that Terrace Marshall is gone. And you're talking about having 2 wide receivers left on this roster heading into next year. Unbelievable. It feels like Adam, though, I mean, I say he could be gone only because he seemed a little bit frustrated at the end of the year. He's reliable. I don't know that you would want to give him up if I'm a Panthers fan. I don't know that Bryce Young would want to give him up, but it's clear that there's work to be done when it comes to figuring out wide receivers on this team. On the reserve, future contract side, again, practice squad guys, we signed Jalen Camp and Cam Sims. Let's take a look at our free agents. One of them is restricted. DJ Chark, Laviska Shenault, Amir Smith-Marset. I also asked y'all, posted, I think DJ Chark was 5th among free agents, the wide receiver free agents that are available, 5th in receiving touchdowns, 14th in yards. I said, hey, do y'all want to bring him back? And, oh, man, y'all shot me down. And I'm not saying that I do, but I think you do have to consider it if we don't get the big name or names or the draft doesn't work out like we want. I don't know that he's going to be around, but I do think you got to keep him close by. Laviska Shenault, I'd say, is gone. I just don't see him coming back to the team right now. And it's nothing on him as a player or a person. I just don't see him fitting in to this scheme. Everybody wanted to call him Debo Samuel 2.0 and just was not it. Now, Amir Smith-Marset, ISM, there's value in the punt return game with him. There's value as a receiver, which we saw motioning, getting him more involved. You see the rushing touchdown. If I'm the Panthers, I'm signing him. I'm giving him a 2 or 3 year contract because why not? He's young. He can grow with Bryce, and he's a piece to this offense. You're going to need more, but he's a piece that can help this offense grow and keep developing and move forward, and that's all that we're asking for right now. We're going to get into the full receiving stats here at the end when we go through everyone. Let's talk about tight ends. You have Hayden Hurst, Tommy Tremble, Ian Thomas, Stephen Sullivan. Out of this group, I think you could have 2 two out of these at least could be gone. One, Hayden Hurst, contract is pretty expensive, but production was not where it was. I know he had the injury. I don't know that he's even coming back. He says he's going to come back. He wants to continue playing football, but I just don't know if that's really going to be the case. I feel like Tommy Tremble is safe. Rookie contract, showed splashes. I know he hasn't been the true number one, but I do think he's a viable option to retain. And you throw in Noah Fant out of Seattle, who has ties to Canales. I see that as an option because we just brought over Seattle's tight end coach as our tight end coach. Talk about that in another episode. Ian Thomas could be a likely cut, and you could save a little bit of money. Again, when I talk about these things, it's more of just as an observer. It's never anything against the player or any of these guys, because I know you're fans of them. I'm fans of them. But I want to educate people and think about what could happen. And then Steven Sullivan, I think, would be okay. We did see some flashes of him as well. Your reserve future contracts, you have Jordan Matthews and Chris Pierce. Free agent, restricted free agent, that is Giovanni Ricci. So maybe if we go to, he's kind of more of the fullback-ish model. I know looking at tight ends on the Tampa Bay roster last year, they kept 3. And you could see we have 4 plus the 2 practice squad. I don't know. I don't know that we keep him heading into next year. And again, I think we are trying to find some winners. And as we saw last year, it just wasn't a lot of winning going on. Recap of your stats. Adam Thielen led all pass catchers, 1,014 yards. Rookie Jonathan Mingo was second with 400. DJ Chark was second. This is sorted by receptions. DJ Chark was second with 525. Mingo was second in receptions. But look at this discrepancy. Adam Thielen, 100 catches, then drops down to Mingo with 43. Chuba Hubbard was your third with 39. Chark, Saunders, Trimble, Terrace, Hayden. Not a lot of production. I mean, you really look at Adam, Mingo, and Chark. Those were your 3 leading receivers, and then a bunch of guys with 100 to 200, less than 200 yards. That's not a great recipe for success at all. So we know that we're going to need some guys that can, some playmakers that can get this thing going heading into next year. Now, offensive lines. Here is the thing that the fans are going to be latching onto this year. They're going to say, we got to fix the offensive line. We got to fix the offensive line. Well, we got some problems there. You're going to have to let some people go. And I don't know that you're going to be able to do that. You look at Moton's contract. You look at Bozeman's contract, Corbett, some of these guys. Like, I don't know that there's room to do that this year. Right now, though, Ickey, Brady Christensen, Bradley Bozeman, Austin Corbett, Taylor Moton. If they could get back to their 2022 form, maybe things will be okay. And they're going to have a new coach, new scheme. If we scheme this thing up right, I don't know. But then you got a lot of guys, the reserves right now, Cade Mays, Chandler Zavala, DiRenzo, Jensen, and the 3 in that group there in the middle were all rookies, and Ricky Lee. It's hard for me to imagine that we carry this many. So like a typical offensive line in the NFL is going to be 9, or a roster on the 53-man roster. So if we're going to draft someone and or bring in a free agent, where somebody's gone. Somebody's going to be gone on this roster. That's just the nature of the business and how things are going to work. Who that is or is going to be, we'll find out. I do think it would be valuable to bring in someone to compete with Ickey, but then you got to figure out, okay, who out of this tier of on the bottom, who's gone? And I don't know that we have a decision that we can make on that just now, but it's something that we'll closely monitor. On your reserve and future contracts, Bedard Traore, and sorry, my screen, let me do this for myself. There we go. Bedard Traore. Your free agents, you have Gabe Jackson and Justin McCray. So let's take a look as it is today at your starting offense heading into next year. This is before free agents in the draft. This is my current projection. Terrace Marshall Jr. would be technically be your X. That's where we are. Ickey, Brady, Bradley, Austin, Taylor, Tommy Tremble, tight end 1. So I'm putting him in over Hurst. Adam Thielen, your slot, Mingo, the Z. And you have Bryce Young and Chuba Hubbard. That's almost the offense that we had this past year, and we saw the results. And I don't think Canales is that much of a savior to revamp this in the state that it is. So I do look for a lot of change to come. And I don't know what the change is going to, be like, or what he's going to say to make sure that, Dan Morgan gets him who he wants. But I'll be on the lookout just like you. All right, folks, that's all I got. I'll be right back with a